all of these. We will begin with the gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Bean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for sharing your expertise with us today. Many of us have advocated for counter-cyclical capital requirements to avoid the kind of depth and width of the downfall that we recently experienced, specifically to discourage the type of leverage that we saw. And as Mr. Zandi said in his own testimony, if I understood it properly, suggesting that when we see a bubble in formation, obviously increasing capital requirements will maybe minimize how big that bubble gets. And in a precipitous downfall, we would ease up capital requirements as well, which we didn't do, so it doesn't get so wide as institutions divest themselves of even, in this case, non-subprime related assets. Given that history suggests that regulators, though they have the authority to impose those changes, tend not to want to be the buzzkill when the party's going, will regulators follow guidance from the feds, or does Congress really need to be more prescriptive in that regard and require those type of changes relative to capital requirements? And I'm asking Mr. Zandi specifically.
I think that's a reasonable concern. Based on historical experience, regulators don't step in when they need to. It's very difficult to do that. And in tough times, they put more pressure on institutions, and it can be counterproductive. I don't think it should be resolved legislatively. I think, though, it can be addressed through the various accounting rules that are adopted to try to effectuate this counter-cyclical effort to raise capital standards, liquidity requirements, various kinds of insurance. So I think if you can codify it in the accounting rules, I think that would be a more effective way of doing it. Once you start legislating it, then it becomes so binding that, and we don't really know what's going to work well and what's not going to work well. Part of it's going to be experimentation, and it's hard to change legislation easily. So I think if you can make sure that the accounting rules are set in a way that this is done to your satisfaction, then that would be the more appropriate.
I think that's an important point. I think that accounting is really at the heart of much of the problem. We don't really know what many of these institutions are having. I really believe that we need fair market accounting on the part of financial institutions, and I think that a lot of this depends upon whether you're a deposit-taking institution that engages in transactions involving risk, or whether you are not a deposit-taking institution. But I think fair value accounting, giving a clear picture to investors of precisely what risk they may be enduring, is terribly important.
Thank you, and I yield.